for talking about Huntington disease. So my biggest job is to be timekeeper. So we have 35 minutes for the session. 10 minutes Grant's going to give for questions and answers. So feel free at the end to put your hand up and ask a question. If you don't feel comfortable with that, please use the app. If you go into the session, you can type a question into the Q&A tab there, and I'll read those questions out. So I will hand the mic over.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for coming along. It's really a great honour to be able to be here and speak to you all. I wasn't sure how much the audience would be because the other two talks are really interesting, so thank you for giving me your time. So I'm Grant, and just quickly, by a show of hands, who already talks about Huntington's disease? Oh, excellent. I'm going to be preaching to the choir. That's good. And how do you find those conversations? Do you find them hands up? Easy? Hard? Weird? Weird. Yeah, okay. Well, hopefully, by the end of my talk today, you'll feel a wee bit better prepared to have those conversations about Huntington's. You'll know some of the basic facts about HD. You'll feel a wee bit more confident to speak about Huntington's, but it feels like there's already a good level of knowledge and confidence in the room. And you'll be able to signpost on to further information and support. And we'll definitely, as Shelly said, have time for questions and answers later on. So a wee bit about me. I'm Grant. So I'm from Scotland. I'm from the Scottish Huntington's Association. I head up their youth service. So apologies if you can't understand my accent. I'll try and go nice and slow. And if there's anything that's unclear, or if I rattle through anything too quickly, please just grab me at some other point in the day and I can make some time to speak to you individually. I've been part of the youth service since 2011. I'm not personally impacted by Huntington's disease, but I am really passionate about creating a safe space where young people and adults can speak about Huntington's and cope better and talk about it openly and honestly. And a wee blurb is that my service won an award, a National Youth Work Award, for its work in raising the mental health and well-being of children and young people last year. So, and there's my smiley, grinning face. So why talk about Huntington's disease? What are some of the reasons why it would be positive to talk about Huntington's? Just shout them out. What do you think they might be?
I had to explain it to friends and my husband's family.
Yeah.
It was hard conversations because I know all the clinical stuff, and it was easy to explain that.
Yeah.
But we also had to manage the emotions, and that was quite hard. It was even the harder part, I think.
Yeah, the emotions and what might come back from having that conversation. Yeah, so educating, absolutely. Any other reasons we might have to talk about HD? Welcome, and you come. No? Okay, well, here's some I've prepared earlier. So some of the things that I thought is we might want to educate, we might want to help reduce stigma, we might want to increase the awareness and understanding. We might use it to connect with others like we're doing today. We might feel relief at being able to share and have that conversation about Huntington's. We might want to correct some misinformation if somebody doesn't understand it properly. We want to improve the services that we get from professionals. It might be necessary at some points to talk about Huntington's. It might help us increase our coping skills. It helps us to plan for the future and what's maybe coming up, and makes other people feel informed. So there's just some of the reasons that I thought. You might agree with them, you might have other ones to add to it. So anybody that we meet might be an opportunity that we want to talk about Huntington's to them. So we've already mentioned family and friends. Is there anybody else that we might want to have a conversation about Huntington's with? Co-workers, yep. Colleagues. Sometimes strangers, 100%, yes. Doctors. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Partners, family, friends, colleagues, employers, doctors, social workers, professionals, members of the public, strangers, emergency services. So the first thing I would like to say is that you are in control about when you speak about Huntington's and how you speak about Huntington's. And if you choose a time and a place that's right for you, you're going to feel more comfortable about it. You're going to feel relaxed and going to feel that it's okay to welcome. It's okay to have that conversation. It's not always easy to talk about Huntington's. You mentioned emotions. Absolutely, emotions can get in the way and make us feel a wee bit more upset. And that's okay. It's okay to feel upset about it. We just need to check ourselves and make sure that we're not getting distressed. It's a very personal decision. Different families have different thoughts on the subject, different experiences and different feelings. And they might be worried about what other people might react or what they might come back to us or say. And sometimes when we start that conversation, some people feel that they then have the right to ask whatever question they feel, and that kind of opens us up a wee bit more. At other times, we don't have a choice. We have to explain that we have Huntington's in our family, and we have to talk about it. So we might want to tell our family, our friends, if we've just recently been diagnosed or become symptomatic. It might be necessary for legal reasons. Maybe we're starting a power of attorney or some other kind of professional document. If it's having an impact on your driving in the UK, you have to notify our Driving and Vehicle Licence Authority, and that might be the same in different countries. It might also be that you need to tell your work or your employer because it's having an impact on how you're performing your duties. And you might also be considering genetic testing, or if you're going through PGT, they would expect you to have that open and honest conversation with them. But if you do choose to talk about Huntington's can help build your strength in coping, and sometimes it becomes part of your identity. It can share an insight into what's happening for you and your family. It can help promote that awareness and understanding, and it can help plan for the future. And talking about Huntington's can also reduce the stigma and shame and misunderstanding that surrounds the disease. It can help engage new avenues of support. It can offer a relief not to be facing things alone. It can really reduce that, oh, I'm here and I'm the only one, and you can build that connection. It can help others understand what's going on for you, and you can make that feel like they are more willing to offer help. And it helps them feel included. So sometimes they sense that something is going wrong and they know that something's not right, but it helps bring them into the fold and makes them feel part of it. Particularly children and young people who I work with every day. So if you do choose to talk about Huntington's, just always make sure that you're safe, keep calm and avoid situations becoming verbally or physically aggressive, and don't put any pressure on yourself to talk about it. Do what's right for you at the right time. Just checking my time. So, in order to help prepare yourself for these conversations, some of the things that I might suggest is just educate yourself. Make sure that you are up on your knowledge, but also try to keep it simple to understand. So sometimes we heard from Rachel this morning some very technical information, and sometimes that's great, and that's really what you need to do. If you're talking to a medical professional, for example, you might want to provide a wee bit more information. But most of the time when we're talking to people, we want to keep it simple. We want to keep it easy to understand. So it might be enough just to say that Huntington's is a brain disease, that it's genetic, that there's currently no cure, but it is treatable with other medication, and it progresses over time. Sometimes that's enough, and that starts that ball rolling. So Huntington's disease in a nutshell, sometimes you might want to go that wee bit further. You might want to talk about it being degenerative. I do this for a living and I can't say degenerative. Neurological disorder of a mainly adult onset. It's caused by an error in a single gene. You might want to talk about the fact that it's genetic and that each child has a 50-50 chance of inheriting it from their affected parent. And in Scotland, and I think HDYO, we refer to the symptoms of Huntington's as mood, mind, and movement. And you might want to talk about the characterisation of the symptoms of HD and its significant impact on family members. So if you talk about mood, you might want to mention that sometimes Huntington's causes anxiety or depression, irritability, apathy, impulsivity. You might want to say when they have mind symptoms, they have difficulty concentrating, organising, planning, difficulty with their memories, processing or prioritising things. And then you might want to say the obvious physical characteristics of the jerky movement, dystonia, difficulty with their speech, difficulty with their swallowing. But what happens is when people don't know about Huntington's, if you link it to something concrete that they can see, it makes it a lot easier for them to understand. So if you say, my mum is affected by Huntington's by X, Y, and Z, then they can say, I understand that that's what Huntington's is causing. Huntington's is a bit like eating an elephant. You can't do it all at one time, so you need to break it down into smaller chunks. And don't feel like you need to have one conversation where you outlay everything. You can just give them the very top layer of information. It's a part of a process. Simple is often good enough. And being open and honest about how you're feeling can really help make that connection with people. And don't worry if you don't know an answer. I've worked here since 2011, and I often don't know the answer. And I will find out where that information is, and I can signpost them on to other websites. So you'll always have your local HD association, HDYO, HD Buzz, that they can get more information from. Sometimes what's really helpful is if you have a prompt. So I should have prepared this earlier. But in the Scottish Huntington's Association, we have a leaflet that just kind of breaks down what is Huntington's, the facts, and it just gives you something that you can prompt, you can use while you're having that conversation. Because we can all get nervous, we can all get mumbled over our words, but it just gives something that maybe they can take away, they can look at their own time. So I'll leave that down the front if you want to have a wee look at it. Some other associations have a I have Huntington's disease information card. And then there's also leaflets and information that people might give out. Sometimes we will experience rudeness. We will experience people being openly and honestly staring or making comments, and that can be really hard to take. First and foremost, I'm going to say it again, always try to keep yourself safe. As I said, we get questions or staring, and just that expectation that because you've said something about HD, people can. I'm sorry, my dad didn't mean to push you. He has a motor disorder and couldn't help it. That just starts that conversation. Or you might have heard about my mum. She's amazing. Can I tell you more about her? Just gives that opportunity to deflect, to distract, and then move forward. And sometimes we just need to walk away because some people might just not listen. And the other thing is there's two very distinct people. Some people wear their HD colours. They're very open and honest about it. They talk loud and proud and long about HD. As soon as you meet them, it's almost like the first thing they say. And that's great because that puts HD right out there. It makes it aware for everybody. And it sets a clear expectation that they're open and want to talk about it. But some people might be put off by that. They might withdraw. They might walk away. And other people take their time. Some others would rather wait to talk about it. And that's good because that maintains confidentiality. It helps you build a relationship or a friendship where HD isn't the key part of the discussion. But then it can be difficult to decide when is the right time to have that conversation. And the relationship might break down when you eventually do have that conversation or cause anger or resentment as to why they weren't included in those conversations. And there is no right time to tell. It's right for that individual person, and what's right for you might not be right for somebody else. But the only thing in my experience is sometimes the longer you wait to have that conversation, the harder it can be. And it's good about just being open and honest. So there's some medical information about my family or about me that I'd like to talk to you about, and this is what's worrying me. This is how we can start that conversation. One of the great things is you're not alone. There's a whole community here. Other people will have gone through similar things, so you can speak to them, build relationships, and continue those conversations. You can think about what's worked for you and what's worked for others, and then you can cherry pick. That sounds like it's going to fit me, that's going to work for me, or that's actually not, that's too much for me. And then just decide what you are comfortable with. So the key takeaway points are, how are we for time? Yeah. It's just to prepare, make yourself feel comfortable, make yourself feel confident, know your stuff. Practice some answers. Sometimes if you're put on the spot and you don't know what to do, you can be like a deer in the headlights. Keep things simple and honest. Use a prompt if you can. Signpost onto other resources. Speak to others in a similar situation, like when we're here. And my very big thing is there's no right way, but there can be a slightly better way. So thanks very much for listening, and now the floor is open to you if there's any questions or any comments, anything you agree with or disagree with. Yes? Yeah. Okay.
And I don't believe that I have a disorder even with HD, so I'm not going to identify as having this illness. That's all that I can identify with. But I do have the PTS sort of situation going on.
Okay.
No, that wasn't the question.
That was it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions? Did everybody understand my Scottish accent? Yeah.
Yeah, it's more common as well. I had to talk to coworkers about it when I got the testing because I wanted to take a week off after the test.
Yeah.
So I wanted people to know that I might come back and I might not be happy and bubbly
Yeah, yeah.
after the week of vacation that I'm taking.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell them that it's HD I'm tested for. I just told them I'm tested for a genetic disease.
Okay.
That is pretty severe. And we talked about it 2 or 3 months later. So I think sometimes the opener doesn't have to be the whole thing already, especially with people you don't trust that much. And sometimes it can only be an opener and then see how they react and then you decide how much you want to share.
I think that's a really good point, because as soon as you start that conversation, you don't know where they're going to take it, do you? And that can be a really scary thing. But if you keep it semi-confidential, like I'm going through this process, but you don't mention it, you can then pick that up 3 or 4 months down the line when you've had some time to process it, when you've had that space to think about it. Thank you. Yes?
Do you have any strategy in order to initiate conversation, especially with family members that are fully brought in and you hiding? I don't want to be rude.
No. Yeah, it's exceptionally difficult when they don't want to talk about it, when they don't want to have that conversation, and they're in denial, or they're in, they've got their blinkers up. And it's really tricky because as soon as you push that conversation, they're just going to withdraw even more, isn't it? They're just going to make themselves put more barriers up. Do I have any? Is that the situation that they just do not want to talk about it at all? Okay. So one of the things you might, and you get support yourself. You're involved in getting support from individuals, or just in general. Yeah. Yeah.
Try to talk about PhD to a specific family member or group of family members.
Yeah. You could explain that you've been here, you've been at an event like something like this, and you could talk about the positives that you have experienced from something like this. You could leave some information, but what you want to do is give breadcrumbs, like little bits at a time to see how they react. And I think that would start that ball rolling. But the more they might just feel more like, I really don't want to talk about it because they're not ready, and it's about them being ready to hear what you're trying to say. So if you try to build that up slowly over a period of time, it can work. It can. It's just about chipping away a little bit every time.
So it would be rather talking about my own experience and then
Yeah, talking about your own experiences, talking about the benefits that you got from it, why it was worthwhile for you, and seeing how that works. Does anybody else have like suggestions about how to help? Chandler?
Yeah, I think it's, everyone's experience is different, and sometimes it's, I know you're not ready to talk about it, but I'd love for you to listen
Yep.
so I can talk about it. Because especially if it is someone in your family who is also part of this HD family, and maybe just hearing your experiences, but also knowing, I think what Grant said, finding the sources of support. Sometimes our family isn't that, and they're not ready, and it's okay if they're not ready. Denial is a part of our coping mechanisms, is how we keep ourselves safe when things are overwhelming. But I think what Grant said, leaving those breadcrumbs, talking about the positives that you experienced, but your relation to your experiences and your journey with HD. And so it's not about you have to talk about this. Will you be willing to listen to me?
Yeah.
And really asking that and keeping that door open. I know you're not ready now.
Yeah.
If you have questions, I'd love to share what I learned.
Yeah.
Or what I got out of this event, or how much better, or whatever it is that I feel, because now I know that I'm not alone.
Because what we want to do is demonstrate how it's okay to talk about it and make them feel comfortable talking about it as well. So Chandler's spot on, just like, can you listen to me? And see if they're ready for that first step. Thank you, Chandler. Yeah.
My mom, for example, was tested last summer, so this is my sister. So
Yeah.
for us, it's like really recent, everything.
Yeah.
And I myself was someone who went through a process where I didn't want to hear about the Huntington disease, but because I was trying to deal with everything on my own, like my mental health and everything. My mom wanted to talk about the disease all the time, and for me was too overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's like, not that I didn't want to know about the disease, but I needed time.
Yeah.
So maybe your family is not like, they don't want to talk about it or hear about it, but they need that time. And when the time passes and they are ready, they will come to you.
just in terms of time frame, you're
Yeah.
talking in months,
Yeah.
you're talking in decades.
Okay.
Everybody does have their own time scale, and they all have their own train time when they're going to get to a certain destination. Just everybody has their own track, and sometimes people do take longer. And that's what I was kind of talking about. The longer we leave it, the harder it can sometimes be to have that conversation. Sometimes when it's still, once you've given yourself time to process and get that information there, then you think, right, how is this sitting with me? How comfortable do I feel? And am I ready to take that first step? And some people take that first step and then think, whoa, no, I'm going to come back. No, too far. And then they start maybe later on, another 18 months down the line.
Have time together and
Yeah.
just hold each other basically. And it's fine that you don't want to talk about it right now, but that's why I want to talk about it. And I would be really happy if you feel at any point that you're ready, if you could make the first step. And I'm waiting
Yeah.
for you, and it took a couple of years actually. But now we're talking sometimes, and sometimes she initiates. So I think that can happen.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important not to wait for it, basically.
And maybe setting out clear expectations of what you're looking for. So leaving those breadcrumbs, but this is what I would like if we spoke about Huntington's. This is the response I'm looking for. I don't want you to say anything, I just want you to hear what I'm saying, or I want you to speak about X, or I want you to tell me about your day. And then if we make that clear, they're very understanding of what you're looking for and whether they can provide that or not. we might have any other thoughts or suggestions or topics or questions?
You talked a little bit about the risk when you decide you're ready to open up and talk. That people might think of that as an open door to just ask you anything.
Yeah.
So do you have any tools to put in a toolbox around kind of limiting that conversation when it goes a bit too far? So you've got comfortable, and now they've made you a little bit uncomfortable
Yeah.
asking questions that
Yeah.
that you don't know how to respond and you don't want to.
Yeah.
Do you have any tools or suggestions around reframing conversation or subtly trying to stop, or just saying, that's a little bit.
I think that's the number one thing, is actually that's a bit too much for me right now. I'm not ready to ask that question. Thanks for asking it, but I'm just not in the right space. Because they can just open up, like you open that door to ask anything about their life or their parents or death or anything. And sometimes it's okay that we're talking about it, but we still have that private space and we still have that confidential space. And I think it's really good just to try to say, no, I don't want to speak about that right now. Maybe ask me that question again in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. But yeah, just having that, we all need that confidence, don't we, to just say, I'm not ready.
Well,
Or,
and you know how you're going to respond to it, it's much easier
Yeah.
as well, right?
yeah. Preparing yourself and having those practice conversations, sometimes when you're in the car, if you're driving, or practicing in the mirror, just gets you feeling more confident about what the word. It's very similar to like if you're talking to children about Huntington's. It's very similar to have that, because we don't know what they might come back and ask, and it can be a whole range of questions that we don't know, and that can sometimes feel daunting. It's like you don't know what this door is opening, and you don't want to open Pandora's box. And then, so absolutely take your time, prepare yourself, and then feel more confident when you go to it. Yes, Chandler?
I was just going to say, I think that's particularly important around testing.
Yeah.
Because, I was a youth worker with HDYO. I'm not from an HD family, but hearing other people just talking about this with people in my world is, well, why wouldn't you get, they have a lot of thoughts of what they would do in your
Yeah.
meetings. They have no idea, right? I've been in this community for a long time. I have no idea what my choice would be if I had to face it. And I think particularly around testing, I love the suggestion of saying, I'm going through this, but maybe not saying what it is, because that is, we can talk through, I know Grant probably has had this conversation with young people, how might you react, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, and we can create a plan of how we're going to spend our time, what we're going to do for self-care on either side. We never know what's going to happen when we're faced with that piece of information or any big piece of information, and so being protective of yourself is absolutely okay, and it's okay if a good friend this community shares their story very publicly, but sometimes those questions can be really overwhelming, and I don't think it's intentional by people who care about us, but they just don't understand having to make that choice or walking through that journey of what do I want to know, when do I want to know it, do I want to know it at all?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think lots of family members sit in different seats in the car, and nobody really sits in your seat, and nobody understands what you are going through. Even if you're siblings, if you're a non-affected parent, everybody has a judgment, everybody has something to say. But it's a bit like when you have a baby, and one midwife tells you something, and another midwife tells you something, another midwife tells you something, and before you know it, you're all confused because everybody's giving you different information, and you've got this new wee baby, and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. You've got to cherry pick the bits that fit right for you, and then you work through how you're raising your child, and you're seeing what the different bits of information you've been given. I see some smiles up the back, so it's obviously like we're connecting. I did that 3 times with my kids, and I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. Well, if there's no other questions, will we finish up there? Or if there's anything else, anybody, feel free to come grab me. If I've not really got anything, I'm more than willing to speak. I really appreciate you all coming along, and thanks for your time and your questions.